When we look at a tree, we think it's very strong, it's at one place, but we also sometimes do injustice to its presence. We think कि इसी जगह पे इसी जगह को छाया देता है. Lekin if you look at its impact, the oxygen that the tree emanates, that is boundaryless. The contribution to water table, and so on and so forth. So strong roots actually help you create entities that help extend the influence beyond the physical manifestation or where it is at. So to paraphrase the legendary immortal lines of Red Bull, you guys know what Red Bull said? Red Bull gives you wings, yeah? I would say strong roots give you wings, yeah? Similarly, for human beings also, strong roots give you wings. It helps you extend your influence, your aura, much beyond where you are today. With that, I'll share some of the examples, some of the roots that I've actually discovered or I've inherited in my life. Quick story, I'm from down the road, as I call it. I'm from Jaipur, originally, born and brought up over there. And if you look at like roots, some roots are inherited, the kind of family you're born in, the kind of education that is given to you outside school, your family, your relatives, the place you are living at. And some you actually acquire, some you actually deduce yourself. The first example that I'll talk about in terms of roots is the kind of family or the kind of environment I was brought up in. As I said, I'm from Jaipur. A lot of stories come from a place of, I didn't have that, we didn't have that, there are a lot of problems and so on and so forth. For me, it's the contrary. I was always born in a family of plenty. Not plenty only commercially or money-wise, but also intellectually, spiritually, family ties, and so on and so forth. And I think what I was really lucky with, whichever part of the family, if I were to like look back today, whatever they wanted to do, what they were good at, they managed to achieve like a very high standard in that. Like people who were religiously oriented went on to become like Jain sadhvis and sadhus. People who are commercially aligned, they managed to institute like really big businesses. People who are academically and spiritually aligned are writing like books on Ved and Puran and so on and so forth. People who are family oriented made sure that they took care of the family really, really strongly. And so it is almost that I was born in a family or an extended family that believed in doing the best that they could be, right? In whatever field that they were good at. And that, if I didn't have strong roots of growing up in this environment, I would have felt a bit disenfranchised, even a little bit gone. Hindi mein ek word hota hai gone, which is like you would have felt inferior, right? Ki yaar, how do I go to where these these individuals have gone? But then because of the strong roots, what that has done for me, whatever little accomplishments, achievements that I would have had through my career, it just makes me go that little bit harder to go to the next milestone, because I've seen people in my family do the best that they have been able to do justice to their God-given talents. So the first root was that really heterogeneous, myriad upbringing that I had, intellectually, spiritually, commercially, family, which just made me believe that my first root was that I was always standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So whatever success, whatever little that I've achieved has been achieved because of the shoulders of the giants that I stood on, and since I was born. So that is the inherited root that I always think stood me in good light. And all of us have our inherited roots, right? But then there are a lot of roots that you actually garner as you go through the life, as you go by. How do you understand the roots that you are actually garnering or discovering for yourself? As per me, there are two elements to that. First is experience. You actually go through life, you experience a lot of things. And the second is you won't really realize that root in that instant. But as time passes by, and as Steve Jobs said that you only connect dots going backwards, you will be able to deduce that all these things happened, and I have been subconsciously imbibing that particular root And now I'm deploying that on a regular basis, and then that's when you realize that that became a route for you, right? So experience and the ability to connect dots going backwards is something that helps you understand or explore the new routes that you did not inherit, but you actually garner through the walks of life. There's a very nice doha, Sant Kabir, if I can remember. It says, Ki, you cannot describe a person who lives life through experiences, because he or she doesn't discriminate between sadhu or shaitan and so on and so forth. You can only and only look at that person with a marvel who is garnering life through experiences and making fundamentals for himself or herself. So experience is really crucial when you're making those routes, when you're exploring those routes as you go through your life. So first I spoke about the inherited route, which was my family. Now I'll just talk about the routes that I discovered as I went through my life. So 1997, I passed out from my school. Unfortunately, Jaipur didn't have very good colleges. So I said that, okay, let me go ahead and go to another city to study further. I was the first person in my family to think of that, right? Regardless of all the intellectual, spiritual, commercial successes of my family, they were like not very happy that the child of the family is going outside to study. But I actually put my foot forward and I said that I'm going to go to Bombay. I did my graduation from Sydney, stayed in a boys' hostel for 3 years, and that is like a huge jolt for me, because you're coming out from a very safe, sheltered environment, and all of a sudden you're like living on your own, you're managing things on your own. But the second route also came from this particular experience, that if you have done your due diligence in understanding your limitations, your strengths, and what is it that you want to achieve, then no matter the amount of comfort, the amount of ties that are binding you to one place, you can actually soar higher. Yeah? And that decision that I took at the age of 16 and a half was super crucial, because I had no precedents before that. But whatever I was able to deduce for myself, I think that was like a route or an experience-driven fundamental that I drove for myself that I've been deploying since then. That if you know what you're doing right, if you've deduced, if you've done all your analysis very well, then you can do a lot of things that you might not have had the chance to actually even think about earlier. Those 3 years were very, very interesting. I made some great new friends. I had a lot of very intense experiences, good and bad both. But what that did was it gave a route for me, which I hold till date, till today. Carrying on from from Sydenham, I took my CAT in 2000. I went to MICA in 2000. Now, I've always been an above average student, right? Not like the class topper, definitely not a dunce, but somewhere a little bit above average. But at MICA, and at that time, CAT was only 6 IIMs, couple of other MBA institutes, and so on and so forth. So again, like the level was very high. I went to MICA, and all of a sudden you had people from Stephens, Xavier's, SRCC, and a lot of people who were like BBC Mastermind India #2, like a huge heterogeneous crowd, multi-talented. And at first, I was very, very, overwhelmed, because I knew my limitations. But then over the course of the 2 years that we lived together, worked together, played together, I understood that I could hold myself against supremely talented individuals who, on a lot of facets of life, were way above my station, intellectually, academically, and so on and so forth. But over the next 2 years, I found that they found equal value in me. And not only did I stand toe-to-toe with them, but I actually managed to outpace also in certain facets. And that is like a second route that I garnered through experience. That we always think of ourselves as much lesser than what we are. But I think the strengths that we carry are supreme. And I think if we were to just focus on them rather than our limitations, then we can do much more than what we end up doing. We have a tendency, human mind has a tendency to look at negatives rather than positives. I also have it. I am still afflicted by that. But I think because of these 2 years, the route that it gave to me was focus on your positives. And I think the people also focus on that then. I think that is the second one. Then I obviously, after Micah, I started working in 2002. 2003, I actually joined a very big ad agency called J. Walter Thompson. And I was put on to a case study client, Hero Cycles. Mr. Munjal's brother, Mr. O.P. Munjal, his elder brother, if I'm not wrong. We used to call him Bauji at that time. And along with Pepsi, Hero Cycle was one of the 2 case study clients for JWT India. Once there was a campaign that had to go live, and the creative folks were not like really collaborating and cooperating. The time was running out. I had to go to Mr. Munjal to present an idea. The creative folks were nowhere to be seen. I was in the account management department, so I was not the creative guy. But because I had to go to Ludhiana the next day, and I had to like I wrote something, and I took it to Mr. Munjal, and Bauji, Mr. O.P. Munjal looked at this thing and he said, "Ki ye to bahut acha hai. We'll do this." So I come back to Gurgaon. I go to my boss and I'm like, "Ki I've cracked it. Such a critical part of the campaign. There was nothing that was happening, but I've been able to do this. There's going to be a lot of accolades and so on and so forth." And I was just like awarded Rookie of the Year like a fortnight before. So like, okay, I'm going to go strength from strength. So my super boss, he called me to his cabin, Mr. Pradhan. And I said, ki, okay, time for some taliyan, kuch tareefein hoengi. He sat me down and he gave me the biggest dressing down that I've ever received in my professional life. I've never received a bigger dressing down than what I got from Mr. Pradhan. And I'm like, equal parts angry and equal parts confused. Yeah. And at some point of time, once he had cooled down, I said, ki, why are you shouting at me? Yeah, I'm like, I delivered something which was super critical. Nobody else was collaborating. And Mr. Munjal is super happy. He said, Gaurav, today you delivered something, but you broke the systems. You broke the processes. Next time there's something critical. Should I catch you or should I catch the creative team? So what you've done is given me a one ad hoc success, whereas I've always depended on processes. Today you went ahead and broke the processes. Tomorrow I don't know which process to work upon. Should I hold you or should I hold the creative team? And that to me was the third route that I explored. Like today, when I manage really big teams, my job as a manager is to train them, empower them, and then let them be. I can't do somebody else's job for them. Because then the boards that hire me can't depend on me to do the work that they hired me for. And that's the third route. That's a professional route that I identified as I went through my career. But it came from a huge scolding that I got in 2003 over something that I thought was very, very good. So roots actually come from negative experiences also. And this is something that happened 21 years back, 1 year into my career, that I still hold very, very dear. Moving on then, I didn't like JWT, not because of the scolding, but I left the place within 2 months. And then I said, let me go the startup route. And startups are very, very glamorous today. I started a startup in 2003, October. I started my own brand consulting called Brand DNA in Jaipur, which is super weird because nobody knew what brand consulting is. I was 1 year into my career, 1.5 years. But through that, I actually found out that all the things, I'm like, they're BA, BA Tech, MBA students on the campus, all of us sometimes just get too enamored with the tools that we've learned during our education. Over there, Brand DNA, and I ran Brand DNA for 3 years, I found that all of us have to make sure that we're delivering commercial and sustained commercial success. So you might be a marketer, you might be a great techie, you might be a great product guy, you might be a finance guy. All lines go into the sustained commercial success of the companies that we hold. As a consultant, at a very early stage, I learned that. And I think because of that, the way I actually am in my professional career today, that route, that is something that has held me in really good stead. Because when I talk to my CFO, to say a Sequoia or a Google as an investor, they invested in our company Car Dekho, so which is why I'm talking about Google as an investor, Helaos, Naspers. they ask me one question, Gaurav, what is your role as a CM or a growth guy? I always tell them that my job is to secure the future revenue lines of the company that I work in. I have to future-proof the companies that I work in. And this lesson came from Brand DNA, which I ran from 2003 to 2006. So roots are strong and they could be acquired at any stage of the life. But actually, once you start connecting dots backwards, then you realize that this is what's shaping your current and present and future also. That is Brand DNA. I'll again maybe 2 more examples, then I'll be done with my time. I was with Yahoo for 5 years. After that, went to OLX. We started off OLX in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And I joined in Jan 2013 when internet was really small. I had a campaign 2 months after I came to OLX. That campaign did really well through February and March. And my global management, they said, Gaurav, take $1.5 million extra, extend this campaign because it's doing very well. So at that time, I took a sponsorship on IPL for 8 crore rupees. $1.5 million was 8 crore rupees at that time. And I extended the same campaign. It bombed. Yeah, it bombed. And later, when I actually deduced, I understood that I did not look in the problem statement very, very strongly. What was happening was IPL was taking away all the internet surfing time because it wasn't mobile economy at that time. There was only desktop and all. So people were actually watching a lot of IPL, but they were not really doing too much on the internet. That made me understand that I have to get into the root of the problem much more than a lot of times what we do. Sometimes we're given an assignment, a case study, and we start just jotting down things. That is a time to actually slow down and look at what exactly are you trying to do. What is the problem statement, and what are the things that you really need to move? I think once you start to do that, then you see that your solutions are much more effective and much more sustainable. So I think that 8 crore of investment that became a failure has given me an understanding that this route, that look into the problem statement very, very carefully. Till date, I think I follow this. Now it's become a muscle memory. The last thing that I'll speak about, I joined Kardeko. All of you guys would have seen Amit Jain on Shark Tank. He was my boss. We worked very closely for 5 years. Very good friend of mine. The moment I joined Kardeko, he told me that, Gaurav, we have a runway of 6 months, a financial runway of 6 months, which means that the money in the bank is only enough to sustain the business for 6 months. And to me, that is like a little bit of a jolt because as a marketer, you need your money and so on and so forth. Sequoia, Amit got me from OLX to Kardeko. But the next 18 months were the most productive and the most precious working experience that I've ever had in my life. Because Amit, I, a couple of others, we created a lot of lean growth mechanisms, which has led Kardeko to be the largest auto tech company in the country today. Again, the only route that I think I was able to connecting dots backwards now is that there's no single path to success. At OLX, I invested about $110 million over 4 years. At Kardeko, I invested maybe 10% of that over the next 5 years. But both became really big brands, sustainable businesses. So there was no single path to success, and that is maybe another route. So no matter what situation you are in, try and see, don't say, this is not working for me. I think there's always a path that you'll always be able to find. So with this, I think the time has come to an end, but I just wanted to share these routes that I either inherited or through experiences, I've kind of imbibed that in my life. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.